think a bidet is different than after you taking a gigantic. Imagine, if you will, right? Like every time I eat Chipotle or Taco Bell or Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah.
That when that liquid stream explodes over the white rim of my porcelain toilet and it's dripping everywhere, is the smart play there to just jump in the shower? Because at least a bidet is a targeted, it targets a specific area. It serves a purpose. Its purpose is to use water to wipe your butt. That's a different than just jumping in the shower. Those are two different things.
Well, I mean, it's not that much different. It's just like a separate thing. Here's what I'm going to say. I have never done that, but now that you've brought it up, I'm considering it.
I've tried it. Don't do it.
What? Getting in the shower and just rinsing your booty hole?
Don't do it.
I mean, I pee in the shower.
Yeah, but this stings.
Stings?
Yeah, so we should clap now.
Why does it sting?
I'll let you figure it out.
Well, you're supposed to take it off of massage before you clean your booty hole.
It's just on the
You're not supposed to just rain down shower droplets like some sort of an aquatic Gatling gun upon your anus, Odie. That's not what people want in their life. You turn it back on a normal mode for the shower.
You don't think that water seeping into your butthole isn't going to sting when there's poop in there? Come on, Kevin.
One. All right. Here we go.
See? Funny. On the spot.
That was a good spot to start on. I'm with it. That was, not where I thought we were going to go. I didn't think we were going to go with body humor this early in the podcast, but here we are. Welcome back to Unpop. This is yet another episode of the unpopular Hot Topic podcast that covers biopics and picks of the week like Hot Topic wishes it could, but those things are shut down.
What is this riff? What is this?
I'm trying to say
You have gone far.
Say pick and Hot Topic as many times as I can. Welcome to Unpop,
Success.
An unpopular Hot Topic podcast about
Hot Topic.
Yeah, it's an unpopular hot topic. We talk about topics that are hot. These topics aren't.
We are currently
lukewarm.
holding
They're not
open
like your
auditions
shower.
for a replacement host on the podcast.
For
so just
Odie.
email. Wait, what? I'm not the host. I'm the co-host. You played yourself.
My bad.
What are we here for?
All right. We're here to talk about many a thing. Like this week, you went to Washington. Let's just jump right into it.
The last 2 weeks I was in Washington.
How was Washington?
So apologies for anybody in Washington that hears my opinion. So Seattle. So like the Seattle area. Yeah, it's about to get. It's going to start off.
I can't go to Louisville.
And I can't go back to a certain part of Washington. Go
ahead.
There's two parts to this. So my first week in Washington, I was on the Seattle, the west side, right? Beautiful.
Okay.
Loved it. Went to the Space Needle, went exploring, went into the woods, did waterfall hikes, the harbor, the market. Oh, I went to the Starbucks. They have like a Starbucks. What is it called? It's like a Willy Wonka Wonderland. It's like a Starbucks it's like a refinery roastery or something. It's huge. It's where Starbucks started, was in Seattle. Yeah, but this is like next level fancy Starbucks. It's huge. It's like you can see them making the coffee and grinding the beans. It's like Willy Wonka's factory. Beautiful. Wonderful. Loved. Cool. And then Monday, of the next week I was there. So I was there for a week, and then on Monday I was supposed to drive over to Spokane. So Monday I drove over. Drive was beautiful until I got about an hour from Spokane, and then everything from that point to Spokane, worthless. Get rid of it. Chop it off.
You're saying Spokane. Is it not Spokane?
So I was saying Spokane, and then a couple locals were like, you're saying that wrong. It's Spokane.
It's spelled Spokane.
N-E. Mm-hmm.
Spokane.
You would think.
Put another N in. You want people to say it that way? Put another N in the name. All right, go ahead. I'm revved up, Odie. Rip this place apart. Go ahead.
Well, it's a very boring city. Like, this is the highlight of my time in Spokane. My highlight was my hotel, which was a Holiday Inn Express, downtown Spokane, kind of looked like a castle.
Odie, I'm going to correct you there. You're saying it wrong. It's Spokane, buddy. You're not there anymore. You don't have to say it the wrong way.
Thank God. Spokane.
Spokane. Depends on if you're in the north or the south. It's either Spokane or Spokane.
But so it was it's boring. It's a boring city. It's so boring.
Were there any cool
nothing
people
there? No, I mean kinda, a little, but not really.
You just ripped apart everybody in Spokane.
So, but yeah, overall, I'm really excited. In the next couple weeks, I did a lot of cinematic drone shots, and like with my camera, I took my whole cinema rig with me. So
that's awesome.
I think I sent you a couple teasers of what I was throwing together.
You did.
But I'll have like a full, probably be about a 3-minute video in total of like the whole trip in Seattle up on my YouTube channel in the next couple weeks. I'm gonna be working on that. I'm super excited. It was overall, minus Spokane, being like not that interesting. Seattle, if you ever get the chance to go to Seattle, hit me up. There are so many things that I found over there that are just so cool. Like walking through the forest, it literally reminded me of like Dungeons and Dragons. Like I was just waiting for like wood elves to just jump out. Like it's so magical. It's wonderful.
Wow. Did any wood elves jump out? I have to ask.
I mean,
you're just making faces. You're not.
I know. I just realized we're on a podcast, and here I am making faces.
Making faces. Yeah,
I mean, they did. Beat them up, took their money.
Did you see the Dungeons and Dragons movie?
I did, and I'm going to go see it today as well.
Oh, sick. So you've already seen it once. You're going to see it again.
Yeah, it was that good. It's worth seeing a second time, 100%.
All right, cool. Since you and I are just like, we're in the thick of it when it comes to absorbing culture, both popular and unpopular culture, right? Like subculture stuff too, right? Let's just jump into a couple of movies that we've seen, because I feel like we riffed really well on that before, and I'm enjoying it. So yeah.
And a lot of good movies out recently. Did you see John Wick 4?
No, I did not see that yet, but okay. I did want to go see John Wick, Mr. Pew Pew, do his pew pew thing.
It is. So I'll just touch on this very briefly, because if you haven't seen it yet, you really can't talk about that movie without spoiling it, and I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. So my rankings of the John Wick movies, and I love the John Wick movies. I'm big fan.
What's your favorite?
John Wick 4. John Wick 4. 100%. Okay. It's in my opinion is the best in the franchise. It mixes it up. The guy that plays the villain, Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise the Clown. Oh my God,
I love Bill
amazing.
Skarsgård. Yep. Okay, go.
Lance Reddick, everything. So, John Wick 4.
Oh, yeah, I forgot Lance Reddick's in it. Oh, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
I love him. Yep.
So John Wick 4, then John Wick 1, then unpopular opinion, I would go John Wick 3 strictly because of the Lance Reddick, Keanu Reeves defend the hotel scene. I don't know if you remember
John
that
Wick,
one.
Okay. I'm actually okay. I'm with
And then
you.
number 2.
I have not seen 4, so my ranking would go 1, 3, 2. I didn't know that was an unpopular opinion, but like we went over last week, I'm a sucker for good writing. I feel like John Wick 2 was a proper sequel in that it wasn't as good as the original, but it set up and it kind of like built upon the universe. I feel like people they give sequels such a hard time. Like sequels are always supposed to be better than the original, but it's so hard to do that because you have double the work to do when you're doing a sequel to a movie, right? You have the original to live up to, which has all of its own built-in hype and like fan base now. And then on top of that, you have to develop the world, but kind of stay true to it, right? And then on top of that, you have to maybe set up for the trilogy, maybe, if that's what you're going for, right? So like you have all of those things going on. You have all of that responsibility, and you have to wrap it up into like a 2 to 2.5 hour thing, or else it's too long, right? So
well, my
like,
biggest problem. Oh,
it's okay if the second movie is not the best one.
well, yeah, and I think with the biggest problem with John Wick 2, in my opinion, is where he ends in John Wick 1 and where he ends in John Wick 2. Like, it's the same. It's John Wick 1 again, but just a different skin. So,
Yep.
And then when 3, like, you start to see him go out of the country, and you see like he teams up with Halle Berry, and then again like him and Lance Reddick's character, like they defend the hotel. Like it really starts to 3 really switched it up, and then 4 builds upon that more. And yeah, I don't know, it's just really good. But we don't have to talk about John Wick. We'll talk about the ones that we have seen.
It's totally fine. Let's get into Dungeons and Dragons, and then we'll talk Super Mario Brothers, because I have a lot to say about Super Mario Brothers, and it might not be what you think.
I'm wondering if we have the same opinion.
I am too, and we'll do rock paper scissors to see who goes first. All right, so
okay, I like it.
Dungeons and Dragons movie, straight up, it was good. It was a solid first movie,
so good
for a possible franchise. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. It's Chris Pine at his best.
Yep. You don't even have to be a mega nerd to understand what's going on. And they also don't point at everything and call it what it is. Like, they don't call the mimic a mimic, right? That's great. I love that, right? And that was in the trailer,
because you're a fan of the game.
Well, I played the game. I play the game. I got a text this week that was like, "Hey, I have a friend who's interested in playing D&D. If we ended up doing a one-shot or got our campaign going again, could she come?" And I was like, "Absolutely." I've managed parties of anywhere from like 2 people all the way up to 8, you know? Like, I've done it for a long time. And I would say that like this movie has a lot of what actually happens in the game when you play it in the movie without being on the nose about it. Let's just say spoilers, just in case anybody like that.
It's been out for a couple weeks.
Doesn't want to be spoiled. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna record a cool little spoilers reel. It's gonna be me saying spoilers. Ready?
Looks like there's some spoilers up ahead.
There it is. All right. So, so like it starts out and they're telling the story. First off, first location is the Panopticon, and I'm a huge D&D fan, so I knew it. I'm like, oh, cool. It's the Panopticon. Awesome. I'm really glad that they opened up in Icewind Dale. They're like, I know where they are. Like, if you're a D&D fan, you know where they are. If you're not a D&D fan, you know that it's a like, if you know the term Panopticon, you know that they're in a Panopticon designed prison where all of like the guards can view the outside of the prison from the center of it, right? And you know that they're in the cold, so it's going to be super hard to escape. That's all you need as a normal person. Right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as they started talking about this Jonathan guy, I was like, oh, I know where they're going. Like, because I know what an Aarakocra is. You know, like, I was like, I know.
I didn't see. I had no idea what was coming.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, like, there's all these little things in the movie that are like, oh, if you're a D&D fan, you get extra out of this joke. And I feel like when you're writing something that exists within a world that has already been around, especially one that's been around for like over 35 plus years, like 40 years, 40 plus. Yeah, we're at 40 plus. So like for Dungeons and Dragons, like that universe has been developed so much. And like, there's so many people that have all these different attachments to things in it that like to try and please any niche group within Dungeons and Dragons would be an utter and complete failure. You know, like if they were like, we're only going to do Dragonlance, people would be like, fuck Dragonlance. Dragonlance they just got an expansion on Dragonlance. But like, instead they were like, here's a general story. We'll show you the map so you know kind of where they are. They're in the Forgotten Realms. Here, let's have fun. And then they go to the city of Neverwinter. And like anybody who plays knows how the city of Neverwinter is run. But anybody who doesn't is just like, oh, cool. It's a big medieval style city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me some Helm's Deep vibes.
A little bit of Helm's Deep, yeah, for sure. Well, it's a port city, right? I actually, when I first saw it, I was like, because it's a port city, I was like, oh, Waterdeep, and then it was like, oh no, Neverwinter, never mind. And then like in my mind, like I had like a little nerd go off in my mind that was like, of course it's not Waterdeep. You didn't see any of the landmarks that are indicative of Waterdeep, you fucker. Like,
Oh, yeah, how dare you?
in my mind. But then, you know, like the thing that they did even a nod to the failed Dungeons and Dragons movie, you know, like the stupid carpet gag, like that, like those little nods without being on the nose about it was just like, it made it perfect because like you could watch the movie, you understand the plot, even if you've never played, like I keep saying. And then like at the end of it, it was fun, entertaining, adventurous, a little bit of action, a lot of comedy. And some shit got resolved, and maybe there's another adventure to be had, you know?
Oh, yeah. I think the best part of this movie, in my opinion, is the cast. I didn't realize that the druid, is that the shapeshifter?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's the girl from It. It's
Yeah.
Beverly. Yeah. Didn't
She's
know that.
awesome.
She's great. Justice Smith as the really bad wizard who needs
He's
to believe in
so
himself.
good.
He's so good.
I want him to be in more stuff. Like he honestly, when he was in The Get Down, which I think might have been like the first big thing he ever did on Netflix, like that was sick. That
It
show,
was that and Detective Pikachu.
yeah, and then he was in Detective Pikachu. I was like, oh, cool, it's that guy from The Get Down. But like, he's such a good actor, and he has such a unique voice that like, just his voice is enough entertainment for me sometimes. You know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then
He's
my
good.
favorite,
Everybody's good.
you know, and even though they showed like the cemetery gag in the trailers where like they're asking the bodies 5 questions and like they fail miserably, even though they showed that in the trailer, I was still laughing my ass off when they went through like the whole thing in the movie.
I have a fun fact about that scene. So you're a fan of another podcast called The Weekly Planet,
Yep.
right? Which is, they have the Planet Broadcasting Network, so it houses a bunch of podcasts in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 of the voices in that cemetery are 3 of the members from the comedy troupe Auntie Donna, Australia. How cool is that?
Dude, I love Auntie Donna. Like, straight up.
They're on Netflix.
I showed Auntie Donna to Mason and Chloe, my girlfriend's kids, and like it was just like all of us, like we still quote it to this day. We laughed our ass, because there was like one night, it was like a year ago or so, and they were just like, you can't make us laugh, and I was like, oh, it's on. Like, and I just turned on Auntie Donna and we watched almost the entire season in one go. Yeah, so that was really good. I actually really enjoyed, even though the villains are really linear.
Hugh Grant.
Fine. It's fucking D&D. Like, you have classifications. Like, I feel like, once again, like, having played the game, I'm like, oh, they're cool. They're just, you know, they're lawful evil. Like, they have their own rules, but they are just, at the end of the day, they're just evil, right? You know, and they kind of abide by that, which is just fun. And then Chris Pine, like, here's my favorite part about Chris Pine in this movie. I don't know if he ever actually performed any bardic magic.
No, he played one song, and it was actually a hologram of him,
which was made by Justice Smith, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Here's what's really entertaining for me, because I remember watching the trailer and I was like, oh, I wonder if he's going to do any bardic magic, because there's a bunch of different things that bards can do. But for the most part, they're like a support class, right? Like, they play music and then like it boosts everybody else's abilities that are fighting, which is really funny, because then when you're playing D&D, like, the way that bards get played a lot of the time now is that whoever's playing them will just be like, oh, I'm going to play this rockin' song while you guys are fighting, and it's going to boost your hit die, because that's what you roll to, like, deal damage to things. Which is, I mean, it makes perfect sense. There's support classes in every game, right? Like, there's so many RPGs that are based off of D&D and that system that, like, of course, if someone plays rockin' music who's, like, your friend, of course it's going to, like, boost your morale. Look at the shit that we had even in like real history. We always had drummers and shit when we went to war. They were just bards.
Yeah.
But like not seeing him do any proper bardic magic in the movie, I was like, wait, is he actually a bard? Or is he just not any class? Like there was enough like questions for me coming away from that. I was like, I didn't see him do a single lick of an actual bardic spell where he's like playing the lute and something magical happens because of it. You know?
I don't think so.
He even
I hope
says-
it did.
He's like, I'm the planner. I come up with plans. Like, that's it.
Yeah, you make plans to fail.
Yeah. Well, then she's like, well, what happens if the plans fail? And he's like, I come up with other plans. Like,
I think my favorite part about this was the fact that him and Michelle Rodriguez's character, they're just buddies, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. They're just
Yeah.
two buddies going about beating people up, doing their thing. That's it.
Yeah.
Platonic relationship.
I really like that more movies have had that. I think the first time that I really remember it was like Rogue One, you know, the hug at the end instead of the kiss. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, thank God. You know, because like if they kissed, I was going to leave the theater before the explosion hit them. Like, and then in this movie, like just seeing them be friends and having him like kind of have an interest in her love life as like a friend was cool. I'm totally
Yeah.
down with that. Yeah, we don't always have to make it some like huge romantic thing. And then, you know, there's the whole other thing where like his wife is dead, but you don't see him in the movie like falling in love with anyone else. So I'm glad that they kind of took that part of the romance away from those two characters, and they kind of gave like the smaller, like not smaller, but like, you know, they gave the romance to like the supporting characters.
Yeah, I thought that fit really well too. It made sense.
It did. It was really good. So let's give it a grade, Odie.
What's our ranking system going to be?
Well, we don't have a ranking system, so you're gonna have to rank this from a D1 to a D20. When you roll a
Jesus.
D20, you can get a D1 when you roll a D20, which is a critical failure. It means like you just fail outright. And then a D20 is like perfect success, like you actually it's a critical hit, right? So that
this is like-
actually makes sense for this movie.
Okay, that makes sense, but that's a big gap.
Yep.
To rank something in. What would you give it?
16. Which
Okay,
is
that's
really
pretty
an
good.
8 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give it a 16. I like that. That's like a perfect ranking. I'm
Yeah,
going to
it's
copy
good.
yours and say 16.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, like, but it was good. And that's it. And
Yeah,
I even like
8 out of
you
10
know,
solid.
like they brought gags back, you know, like Hugh Grant tries to do the gag at the end, and like they've walled up the prison.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
no one's escaping this time. And that was great. I really loved Hugh Grant the entire movie. Like,
Yeah, he's pretty
wow,
great.
what a great character. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I think the character that I really liked was the guy from Bridgerton who played like the really straight-faced, like normal.
Oh, the Paladin.
What's his? Yeah, that guy. And he was
Oh
just
my
like,
God. He was so good. Like, honestly.
There's a comparison
What's that?
of apparently. So people have been comparing like this movie's like troop to Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. You know, the Paladin's
Oh,
a lot
he's-
like Drax, and
He's Drax, yeah.
yeah, and Helga is a lot like the Green One or Nebula. You know,
Yeah, Gamora.
yeah, and then you know Chris Pine's very much Star-Lordy and everything.
But then who is Justice Smith?
Rocket, I don't know.
I mean, not really, but okay. Like, kind of.
Groot.
I don't know.
But
No,
yeah,
that
no,
would be
it's
the
good.
Druid, I guess, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But that
Maybe it stops
that makes
after
sense.
that.
That makes sense until you get to like some of the supporting cast, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But I get it. I mean, why not use a reference of like something that you've watched before? Like, I'm not gonna hate on that.
Oh, he's Kraglin. Justice Smith's character is Kraglin.
Who's Kraglin?
He's the one of Michael Rooker's characters, little henchman. He takes over the Finn. Sean Gunn plays him. James Gunn's
Oh
his brother.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get that. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, sweet.
Anyways,
Let's move on to Super Mario Brothers. And like I said,
Okay,
we're
so
gonna rock,
wait,
paper,
I have an
scissors.
idea.
What?
so instead of we can do rock paper scissors, but I think on the count of 3 we should both pick one word to describe how we feel about this movie.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
One word?
Yeah, just like one, your one word rating.
Let's just say what we thought about the movie, and then let's just say what we thought. Like if you thought it was good
Okay.
or whatever. Like
Okay.
on 3. Okay.
Okay. All right. You're the counter.
All right. 1, 2, 3. It was better than I
Very
thought.
mediocre. Oh. Okay then.
That's it. That's all I got, man. It was better
It's
than I
very
thought.
mediocre.
I actually think it was better than mediocre. And I'm just gonna go into it. I'll tell you why.
Go for it. You can go first.
I went into this movie going, wow, okay, this is not gonna be that good. Nintendo has a vested interest. They probably have producers and executive producers on their side. The media company that's putting it together has executive producers that have vested interest on their side. And like I went into it expecting nothing but cliche Super Mario jokes with like a kind of like weird rounded out final battle. And then in between some sort of a development that like ties them to the Mushroom Kingdom. But what I was not expecting was the pace that they set very early on in the movie.
Full speed.
And how it just keeps going. And I actually I really liked the movie kind of won me over in that like even though they did like the woohoo and like all of like the Super Mario Brothers like catchphrases and stuff like let's-a go and like all that stuff, they didn't make it the same exact way every time. They had other characters in the movie saying it in the beginning, so you know it's not just like a Mario thing that came out of nowhere, right? Like his dad says it, right? So like when you have other characters saying these things, it kind of fleshes out that universe, but not too much. Because like I don't want to know everything about their Brooklyn. Like all that matters is they're the Super Mario Brothers. We only care about them in the Mushroom Kingdom. So I'm glad that like they get dumped there right away. And then they meet Toad, right? And then it just continues full speed. I also like that it looked like for a second that there was going to be a side plot of Luigi in a haunted mansion. And that
was
got me
so disappointed.
really excited. Yeah.
Yeah,
But then
I thought the same.
What I really enjoyed about it is that he got captured, so it ties him back into the other plot without having to like really like obfuscate everything that's going on before bringing him back, right? So like he gets captured and then like that brings him back into the story that they're focused on telling. Meanwhile, I like that like Peach is a badass, but they're not like hammering it over our head. You know, like she's a badass, but like she's a badass who also admits that she needs help, you know? And like she's not just like I'm a girl and that's why I'm the best, which I think it's good that we have some of those now because there are like we do need a multitude of stories and perspectives in our culture. But I'm glad that in this movie that's called the Super Mario Brothers movie, we weren't introduced to Peach who's just like, I don't even need anybody. Like she was just like,
I agree.
she was like, here, I'll show you like what you can get used to help me. And then like it took him a bunch of tries and he's like, you're going to tell me you got it on the first try. She's like, oh no, it took me a while. And then she's like, no,
That was a good moment.
like that was good. And then
Yeah, it was good.
I really thought I wasn't going to like Jack Black as Bowser, but I liked him. He was good.
That was the one thing I knew I would like.
He was. I didn't think I would like him as Bowser. I was like, oh man, like that doesn't seem like him. Like it, I would almost expect like someone who has a grittier voice that can like deliver comedy as well, like Patrick Warburton, right?
Or like
The
Ron
guy who plays
Perlman.
Kronk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was expecting like that, like a deeper voice, a little more gravelly, but then he ended up being like kind of fun and silly, but still a little bit serious. And I like that they didn't, once again, like just like Dungeons and Dragons, I like that they didn't slow down to point at everything and explain it. Right?
Yeah.
Like if they had at any moment And even if they did at any moment and I just didn't notice, like, slow down to analyze why the world works the way that it does, I didn't really feel it. And so that to me was
I
like,
agree.
that was a win. Because we mostly went, like Brandy's youngest, Caden's 5. He loves Super Mario. So, like, of course we're going to go see this movie. I also like that they were able to tie in Mario Kart without having it just be Mario Kart. You know?
I did like that.
That was good. And they didn't even do Mario Kart like from the get-go. Like it was like, oh yeah, all the Donkey Kong guys. They've all
That
got
lines up with Donkey Kong
carts.
64 because there was a lot in one of the worlds. That's all it is. It's
There were
just
the
a bunch of So it made. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Easter eggs and everything were great, but if I may, why I thought it was mediocre, and I'm gonna be a little critical, and I understand it's a kids movie. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to make a movie like this, right? If you're going to make a movie like this, you have to know that part of your audience is going to be people around our age that played Super Mario maybe on the N64 or the regular Nintendo or maybe even the GameCube. Like you've got some generations there.
Yeah.
So it's not just a kids menu, okay? There's other things to order. So there's a couple things that just didn't work for me and I just did not like. And I know people said that you grow into it and everything, but Chris Pratt as Mario just does not work. It just sounds like somebody doing a Chris Pratt impression trying to do a Mario impression to me.
Oh, I guess I didn't notice that. Like, I feel like having him have a Brooklyn accent instead of having him talk like super cartoony fake Italian the entire time is in like now that we're talking about it and I'm thinking about it, like I feel like that's better, because like,
and I'm not saying
he has the ability to be cartoony Italian, but like he doesn't do it all the time, which I think is better. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like Chris Pratt was not the best choice. I mean, honestly, like I know everybody's like, oh, they should have gotten Chris Martinet, right? Or Charles Martinet. Charles Martinet, the guy who did Mario. He's in it. He's the guy playing Jumpman, but like,
and the Mario voice in the beginning in the trailer in the commercial that they made, and it worked,
which is great. But then I feel like, did you see the Super Mario Brothers movie, like way back in the 90s?
Of course.
Did you see it? I feel like they could have just gotten like someone who sounded like that Mario to be.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is that I don't think it's necessarily, and like I'm not the biggest Chris Pratt fan, but I'm not gonna sit here and say that like he was the wrong choice because he is Chris Pratt. He was the wrong choice because his voice just doesn't work. I'm not saying that you should have used the original voice of Mario and done like the super cartoony voice, because I agree. I don't think that would have worked for an hour and a half movie. I think it would have gotten very old very fast. That's, I think, definitely true now. Yeah. But I think you could have gotten somebody that maybe had a Brooklyn accent with a touch of Italian in it, like most old school Brooklyn, accents were in movies, like the Super Mario movie from the 90s. I think you could have gotten somebody that leaned heavier in the direction that they were trying to go. I think they pulled back. And again, I just don't think Chris Pratt's voice works. And the fact that he's Garfield now makes me very concerned.
Wait, Chris Pratt is also Garfield?
Yeah, he's going to be voicing Garfield in a movie coming up.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that, and I'm not going to pay attention to it.
That's the first thing that didn't work.
How about Charlie Day as Luigi?
So I'll say a thing that didn't work and then say a thing that did work. What did work for me was Charlie Day as Luigi.
Yes. Thank you.
Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong.
Yes.
And Jack Black as Bowser. I think that those three worked really well. Mm-hmm.
I also like Keegan-Michael Key as Toad.
I was going to say the same thing. And I think, honestly, I think everybody works except for Chris Pratt as Mario. Yeah. I honestly do. Yeah. And which is why I didn't hate this, because the scenes with everybody else, they make up for it. But at the end of the day, I couldn't say that this is more than just mediocre because of, one, Mario, but two, the pacing is too much. It's too fast, and there's too. It's like he's in Brooklyn and then it's flooding and I was like, oh, he's going to save Brooklyn and then he's going to disappear or something. No, then he's in a pipe and then they're separated and then he's with Toad and then he's with Peach and then he's with Donkey Kong and then they're fighting Bowser and then they're fighting Bowser again. It's just like, it's too much too fast. Like, it's just nonstop.
I
feel like,
hear that and I totally understand where you're coming from, but I actually think that the pace was quite nice. Because had it slowed down, like I said, had it slowed down at all, I probably would have been like, oh no. Like,
I think it could have slowed down.
Really been dumb. Like,
I think it could have slowed down a little bit and maybe given us a little bit more character development. Maybe like, I wouldn't have minded like a little bit of a scene to just kind of break up the pace just a little bit where maybe we learn a little bit of why like Toad's not like the rest of the Toads. It doesn't have to be like, you know, a super big explanation, but maybe just a little bit more of like him talking to Mario and Peach about why he's so fearless. Even if it's just for like a minute, just to like calm down for a second instead of the nonstop here to there. It just felt like one thing after another with no intermission. And sometimes that works and sometimes it just doesn't. And for me, it just didn't.
Oh, I liked it, and I
and that's
like
valid. It's valid.
I feel like there was good variation. I'm glad that they didn't stop to explain the power-ups. I'm glad he just like kept grabbing them and figuring out what they do.
Oh yeah, that that's different.
Like I'm really glad that like they're like, oh look, it's a crazy rainbow road, and then like they just went like, and you know everything's like driving upside down and all this other stuff, and like I feel like, you know, if there's like all these cheesy moments where they're like, there's an anti-grav adapter in these wheels, and that's why we can drive upside down on the rainbow road, I would have been like, fuck off, get out of here.
Well,
like,
I mean, over explanation is one thing. I mean, you know, there's a difference between stopping to break up pace and then stopping to over explain. But the last thing for me, and why I think it made me mad, is because they teased at it, and I was like, oh, we're definitely gonna get it. But Yoshi, I mean, he is a staple of the franchise.
Well,
and like,
it's the first one, and there's no Yoshi until Mario 64.
Probably, but the thing is, he's still a staple.
Super Mario on the SNES was the first one that had Yoshi. Mario World.
I think it could have benefited, and that's a personal, very like, that's not a very good reason to knock this movie down, but I just think at the end of the day, for me, like overall, I thought it was fine. I thought the voice cast was fun. I thought the plot was pretty good, and it was a very like fun ride, but it's not a movie that I ever intend to watch again.
All right. I mean, that's kind of how I feel too, but like that's also all I wanted out of it was like, is it fun? Is it simple? Like I wasn't looking for like the Mario movie that I want to watch every week, you know, like I'm at home watching Succession and shit, you know, like I'm not looking for a Mario movie that I'm going to watch 1,000 times. Like that time has passed for me. So like my gauge was like, was it fun, entertaining enough that like if Caden throws it on again, I can like sit there and watch it with him? Because there's some movies that come out that I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely can't watch this even if he's watching it. Like he's going to have to watch that in his room. Like,
yeah.
No,
that's true. That's fair. And I mean, I just wanted it to be fine because I thought it was going to be bad.
I think there's a thing in my head that made this movie more acceptable, and you may or may not have played it. And that is Super Mario RPG. Did you ever play that game?
Mm-mm.
Because it's freaking under the radar. But like, I totally forgot it existed until I was watching this movie, and then I was like, oh yeah, Super Mario RPG was super cool. Like it literally it's like a turn-based fighting game, like with all the Mario. It's really cool, and I remember playing it a lot as a kid, and like sucking at it at first because I was like expecting a Mario game, and then I got a turn-based RPG, and I was like, what is this? Like I was like, wild. I don't know how to beat this game. I can't just jump on things. But yeah, so like I remember that game, and like as I was watching this movie, I'm like, I guess Mario's had a lot of different iterations, you know, like, and they kind of hinted at a lot of them. Like she says, there's a big galaxy out there, right? I was
yes,
like,
Mario
oh, Mario
Galaxy.
Galaxy. All right, cool. We're opening up every door that we can. Great. I really hope that like, to be honest, I really hope that there's like a Luigi's Haunted Mansion subplot in a movie or like its own movie at some point, because that would be dope.
I hope so.
Like,
because he's great.
They never have to explain everything in this world because it's always been a nonsensical world. Like when you first started playing the game, you're like jumping around, then all of a sudden a giant bullet flies at you. You know, you're like, whoa, wait,
that
what?
scene was really good
you
too.
know, like, yeah, and that was great. And then, so like, and then the other thing that I like is they only did it, I think, twice, but they did like proper platformer side scroll view.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that they only did it twice. I was like, oh, thank God. Because like once they did it once, I was like, all right. I was like, oh, that was cool. But in my mind, I was like, yeah, if they do this too many times, I'm going to be fucking pissed.
Let me ask you this then, just out of curiosity. And I think at the end of the day, also because I'm sitting here thinking about all the things you're saying, I'm like, wow, I did like all those things. Yeah. But I think the elements that were made for kids, when those elements popped up in the movie, for me, it was very jarring because, and this is why, and I don't think it'd be the case for a lot of people, but little secret, I'm not the biggest fan of kids, and I also don't want kids. So I avoid things that are made for kids, and that's totally fine. You know, like, why would I go out of my way to watch things that are made for kids? So I think this is my first time watching a kids movie that really felt like, oh, yeah, there's definitely elements in here that are made for kids.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you, because we're talking about it, and you talking about Super Mario RPG made me want to ask this question. What is your favorite Mario game? Because I know mine. It's near and dear to my heart.
I mean, the Mario Kart 64 was probably the one that I played the most, for sure. Like,
it's a good one.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite Mario game. I mean, like, and then I would say right behind it, because I remembered it during this movie. I know I forgot it for forever, but it's because, you know, like, it just fell off. But, like, Super Mario RPG was sick.
Hey,
that was a sick game.
All right, mine?
What's yours?
Paper Mario. The first Paper Mario.
I never played it.
So good. It is so good. And
that
then
was on
right
GameCube?
behind that. Yeah, GameCube. Because
right, cool.
I had an N64. And I had Mario Kart and the original Super Smash Brothers, which would probably be right behind it, in my opinion. I know it's not a Mario game.
That's not technically a Mario game. Yeah.
But it's so good.
Yeah.
But the GameCube is the system that I had more time with as a kid that could actually remember it. Like, I remember playing GoldenEye and all that, but I remember the GameCube was the system that lasted the longest for me, because I also remember there was Super Mario Sunshine, there was Super Mario, there's Paper Mario, there was the Star Fox game that was just a reskinned dinosaur adventure game. Do you remember that on the GameCube?
I love Star Fox. I don't remember the dinosaur adventure game.
You didn't miss anything.
All right,
but the GameCube, I just remember... But honestly, let me actually backtrack. Paper Mario, and then I think Super Mario Sunshine. I remember really loving that game as a kid. I say kid, I was a teenager, but close
I don't
enough.
remember anything past like the 64, because after that I had a PlayStation.
You were too cool.
Well, after that I was old enough to like only want to play Tony Hawk and like God of War and shit, you know, like. And then as games continued, like, I had a PlayStation forever and ever. And then in college, I just didn't even own a gaming system. But then my roommates had, like, Xboxes. So I started playing, like, Halo and Gears of War. And I just kind of fell into those games. And now, like, you know, you and I, we've played Destiny. And I frequently say, like, that might be the last game I buy. Like...
Oh, yeah.
I don't... At 36, I don't see myself investing in video games going forward, and not in a bad way. Like, if anyone else does, that's fine. Like, I just, like, as time has gone on, people are like, oh, you should try this game. And more of my brain is just like, nah. Like, if there's another Elder Scrolls game that's kind of like Skyrim, and I have time on my hands and I can prioritize it properly, I'll probably get it, you know? But like, I went and hiked today, and I'm going to fix my skateboard after we're done with this and go, like, skate. And I just, like, I feel like, especially for me, and now this is kind of like a digression from what we're talking about, but, like, I spend so much time looking at a screen already at work. And I spend so much time, I've spent enough time in my life leading up to now having watched or watching things, right? Like, because I've consumed a lot of entertainment, like content and stuff, like not just content, but like entertainment, like movies, music, all these things that like I've had my entire life. Like, we have more of that than any culture has ever had in any of human history ever. And so naturally, yeah, we would like consume that much. But there was a part of me that started like kicking over at one point that was like, yeah, you don't want to do that as much. And you want to be more intentional with what you watch when you watch it. You know, so like when people like friends or family members of mine are binge watching something, I usually stop after an episode. And if they want to continue, that's cool. That's on them. But like, yeah, I just like, I don't want to play video games. I want to like go outside. I want to actually touch grass.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And honestly, it's nice and very refreshing because I'm not joking. Last night, I was having this exact conversation with Goose, telling them that moving forward, I wanted to very, very, very limit how much, if at all, I play my Xbox, strictly because I really want to I want to be more productive in the things that matter right now. And I think it sounds like you're kind of in the same thing where it's just like video games were such an integral part of my life for such a long time because it is how I stayed in contact with people when I moved so much. It's how I made new friends like you guys in New York. And that time period is something that I am so fond of. And like just thinking like just a couple of years ago, the way we used to play Destiny compared to now and how, you know, the group has changed and evolved and so forth. But for me, it's like back then when I played Battlefield 3 until 2 a.m. or, you know, played the first Destiny and just banged my elbow. But we played the first Destiny and we, you know, raided until midnight because it took forever back then. Like, that was fun then because at that point in my life, I wasn't really doing a lot, but now I am. And now I'm focused on a lot of things that I would like to continue to focus on because it's my future that's tied to them. And for me right now, it's not even that it's just not a priority. It's not even on my radar.
Yeah, dude. Okay. So when we moved into our new apartment, the one that we're in now, I gave my Xbox over to Chloe. So like, I don't even have a video game system downstairs. I don't have one in my room. Like, so anytime I've been playing Destiny with you guys, I'm literally playing in a kid's room. And I think that's helped to instill in me that I shouldn't be playing as much, you know, that I put it in, like, my Xbox is in Chloe's room, but if I'm going to play Destiny, I need to play on the 1S, which is in Mason's room. So I literally have to sit on a kid's bed to play that game. And I just don't want to do that much reasonably, you know, like
it's fair. So... And this is all to be said. And I feel like I should say this as well. This is all to be said that if you do play video games, we're not knocking video games. I love video games. I wish I had more free time to just play the games that I want to play. But I'm saying this, and I think you are too, so nobody thinks that we're attacking people who play video games. It's more want to play video games, but also have other things that I want to do now. And those other things are just slightly more important to me. Or maybe way more important. I mean, could be either one.
Dude, fuck it. I'll double down a little harder than that, actually. I'll say, like, don't just tell other people to go touch grass. Go actually touch some grass. Like, video games are great, but, like, as someone who played a good amount of them, you know, like, this year I have 2 jackets from Destiny. Hooray. Like, which I really enjoy that, right? I think that's something cool. I think it's pretty unique. Not a lot of people have that. Like, and that's cool. But like, I also like through getting those and through what it took to accomplish them, I realized how much else I could have done in other realms. And I think some people do realize that too. But maybe where I was like originally going with the thought pattern that I had as we were kind of like transitioning into video games and like things that are meant for kids and how we might not consume that content, like, it's easier than ever in a world where you can have so much to just pick the things that you can have so easily that are given to you, right? and then just like be content with that. But there's a part of your brain that will itch and be like, I need something else. Like I can't just have this screen. I can't just have the things that are being given to me. And I think it's because inside of us as human beings, there actually, in literally every human being, there is a drive to accomplish something. Like you have different phases of your life, and different people might experience this a little stronger, a little sooner or later in life, but like you do want to do something with yourself, right? So like in doing that, you have to be intentional, and you have to actually set things out for yourself to do that can't be given to you, right? So like a lot of people will binge an entire series of a show, and then they have a lot to talk about for a week, but they maybe didn't even like get that much out of it because they watched 8 hours of something all at once. Like, could you imagine sitting through an 8-hour lecture of anything? You wouldn't retain that much, you know, like, but it seems more acceptable because it's a show, but like they talk about it for a week and then they're just depressed that it's over and they have to wait an entire year. Where like, and not to, I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but I'm saying that like, I have found an activity I have found many activities that are better than consumption, right? Than consuming. And one of those things, like I was thinking about it today when I was hiking, like this is like going to the top of a mountain is not something that should or readily can be given to a person, right? And I say readily can because then, you know, someone's going to be like, well, someone could gift you flying up to the top of a mountain on a helicopter. I was like, fuck off, man. I don't care. Like, I seriously don't care for those shitty phallic arguments that exist. Like, they're fallacies, right? They're fallacious.
100%.
They're I said phallic first, which means penis. They're dick arguments.
Yeah, they are dick arguments.
They are kind of, they're floppy little dick arguments.
Penis.
But like, but they're fallacious, right? It just doesn't make sense. But like, what I really mean when I say that is like, if you are to accomplish getting to the top of a mountain, you literally have to walk there step by step. And like some of the coolest people I've ever met in my life, that like, you know, like Ryan Atkins and Matt Novakovich, like guys who earned themselves nicknames like the Bear, right? Like they climb mountains and they do crazy shit, and I've seen them do it, and I'm like, I want to do that. So like there's only one way to do it. Like I have to actually do it now. And I've had plenty of friends who have gotten into streaming, and like some of them have had some varied success to it, and I think that's cool too. And yeah, there's like a time and place for that, but I think balancing that, like in the end all be all, you are essentially selling your consumption of a thing to other people who are consuming a thing, which is a like sycophantic Ouroboros, you know, like, and I know I'm getting pretty heady now, but like it's like this it's a cycle of consumption that like leads back to other things being developed specifically for the idea that someone's going to consume it and sell that consumption to someone else and sell that consumption to someone else. And the only apt metaphor I can come up with, I don't really want to use because it's Human Centipede. And like,
oh God.
But God. but that's kind of what it's like. It's like watch me do this shit, and then someone's like, I'm gonna react to you doing that shit, and then someone watches you react to a person reacting to a thing that was made. Like,
yeah. Well, you know, you mentioned that, and you mentioned balance. I mentioned balance briefly.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny because I'm gonna tie it back to the Seattle at the beginning, and then I'm gonna say let's put a bow on this episode.
Right.
Because we do want to go. It's actually really nice here for once in Colorado.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go. We're actually gonna go on a 3-mile walk down to a river so our dog can go swimming. So speaking of touching grass, and this is actually what leads it all together. So I do my YouTube channel, right? Where I record, do product reviews and everything. Well, for the last like year and a half, I've been doing all of my B-roll in like a studio setup, putting it on like a table, lighting it, shooting different aspects of it. And that's been my B-roll. When I mention parts of the bag that I'm talking about, put the B-roll over it kind of thing. Well, back when I first started my channel, probably 80% of my B-roll was taken in the wilderness. It was me with the bag. It was the bag on a tree, bag next to a tree. You know, it was always outside. It wasn't until the pandemic hit that I started moving all of my B-roll inside. And I never really went back to doing it outside. Well, a couple days ago, I got a comment from somebody on one of my old videos saying that they missed seeing the bag, out in the wilderness. Well, funny enough, one of my New Year's resolutions this year for my channel was for every video that I make, because it takes me a long time. You got to record, you got to set up, tear down, and you edit your main footage. That's a lot of time inside staring at a screen. So I've started to reincorporate doing specific things to take specific items, outside and get footage. And when I was in Seattle, there was a waterfall that I really wanted to see, and you could go to the waterfall, and then on the trail map, it looked like just a quick little switchback. You went up to the top of this like ledge, and there was this lake that was like above this waterfall. So I set off on this adventure, right? The hike was supposed to be about 3 miles, right? And it was supposed to be a beautiful day. It ended up being 8.5 miles. I ended up climbing the equivalent of 40 stories. It snowed and rained the entire time that when I got to the frozen lake, I couldn't see 2 feet in front of my face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So went on this entire trip, planned it all out. It took me like all day because I had to drive 2 hours to get there. And then it took me like 4 hours because it was like 8.5 miles. It was one of the hardest hikes I've ever done.
Yeah.
Only got like 2, maybe 3 usable shots out of the whole thing. And I don't know. There's just something. I think you can find a nice balance where you could even incorporate things like that. You know what I mean? Like, taking something that you would normally do inside and adding that outdoor element.
What I would add to that, to help wrap this bow up, is we kind of kicked off like talking about D&D and like the movies and stuff. And D&D is something that I've really enjoyed. But one of the coolest things that it's taught me as a DM who's been developing stories with people in like a group setting for such a long time is that there's a lot of work and effort that goes into creating a story, and then you have this idea of like what fruition looks like, like what it really looks like to get to the end of something. But in the end, the things that you end up accomplishing along the way to that final point, that piece of finality, are the things that you look on back on the most fondly, So like, really, when I'm talking about being more intentional with my time and kind of like prioritizing better, what I'm talking about is just a different journey that involves less consumption of things, because I need to rely on myself more to get the accomplishing done,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Cool. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's got a little headier than I thought it would get today.
That's what we do on Easter, the Easter Bunny's birthday. We get heavy.
The Easter Bunny's birthday. All right. Well, that's all I got today. We should probably go touch some grass now.
Yeah.
Well, you have a good one, sir.
You too. You're supposed to do the outro.
Oh wait, we forgot to do the thing. Hold on, we forgot to do the thing.
What thing?
We forgot. What's something that you're like really into this week, like music or TV or a book or something?
Okay. Yeah. So recently, speaking of consumption, we always have something on in the background at the house, whether I'm editing or drawing or whatever we're doing, or a show before we go to bed kind of thing. And so with the Ahsoka series coming out in August, getting Goose more invested into Star Wars, we are going through and watching everything leading up to episode 4. So we are going through episode 1, we're watching episode 2, all of the Clone Wars, episode 3, all of Rebels, and then we're going to go into Ahsoka. That's kind of like when we go to bed, watch a couple episodes, when we're, our downtime of when we do want to consume, that's what we're going through right now.
Is Ahsoka between 3 and 4?
It is set around the same time as The Mandalorian.
Okay,
but
that's what
we
I
just
thought.
recently went through everything like Empire and then leading up into the Mandalorian. So I'm just giving
Okay.
Goose some backstory on who Ahsoka is and how it all ties in. So, with my Star Wars
right.
nerdum. So what about you?
We can do a Star Wars episode sometime, and that would
I
just
will
be.
lead
I feel
that
like
episode.
that would be good banter.
It'll be 2 hours.
I feel like it would be good banter.
I love Star Wars. Yeah.
And I am conflicted about Star Wars, so it would be great.
Fair enough.
Well, that's good, man. Lately for me, I would say music-wise, Fall Out Boy released a new album, and it is too good. It should not
Ooh, I'm
be
putting
this
it on.
good. It is
putting
only
it.
good. Like, it's awesome. I
love
was not
Fall Out Boy, so
expecting
it's
it.
good to hear.
Dude, I was not expecting it, and it was amazing. Like, I've been listening to it at the gym. I listened to it on my drive up to the mountain today. I like, it's just good. That, and then I'm still like, when I have the time and I'm just relaxed and I'm still crushing like an episode of Succession at a time and keeping up with The Mandalorian as it comes out, which is something that I really like. I know we talked about binge watching and stuff, and I can't get down with it. I think binging
Weekly episodes.
Whenever you attach binging to something, it's bad, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying this as someone who has binged, and
But weekly episodes are good.
Whenever you binge anything, food, alcohol, a TV show, even music, like if you binge it, it is bad. Like it's not good for you. You're not balancing it out, right? But I love that, like, yeah, the Mandalorian's had weekly episodes, and we'll have our Star Wars episode, and or maybe we would have to do more than one episode. So how about this? When I get back from the DR and we unpack all the stuff that I'm doing down there, and like all the stuff that happened, and like what went on in your life while I was out of town, let's jump into Star Wars, because that'll be right around May the 4th.
I like it.
All right, perfect. Well, that's a much better note to end this episode on. Odie
Yes.
Matthews. I hope that your
Thank
dog
you.
enjoys swimming.
I
This
hope
has
he
been
does too.
Unpop. Odie, come up with a bit for it. Say something about Hot Topic.
This has been Unpop. Unlike the Corn Pops pop cereal, we do not pop when you put sugar on your milk. Thank you for listening.
Snap, crackle, pop, baby.
Is
that wrong?
I meant Rice Krispies. We don't pop, we're unpop. And I said fucking Corn Pops. What is Corn Pops? Is that a cereal?
I don't know.
In my
I
head, it's
remember
a cereal.
Smack'ems. Remember Smack'ems? They
With
had a
the
fucking
frog.
frog, and you were just like, yeah, dude. Did he smack people? Why were they called Smack'ems? Do you?
He smacked his lips. They were that good.
You smack your lips because they're good.
Yeah.
All right, that's where.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.